Hello and welcome to yet another edition of House Connect, your insight into parliamentary activities. The third ordinary session of the 2023 legislative year has gone into the annals of history. And on today's edition of the program, we'll give you details of the closing ceremony. But also we tell you what the speakers have been up to. We shall be having a guest, a portrait, and also telling you about what members of the National Assembly and the Senate have been up to in their parliamentary networks. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Apart from presiding over plenaries at the level of the Senate and the National Assembly, the President of the Senate, Marcel Njifenji, and the House Speaker, the Right Honorable KAWEB, have been granting audiences to groups of persons. First was with the France-Cameroon Parliamentary Friendship Group, and later on with a delegation of the Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Here's the details of the discussions.
The France-Cameroon Parliamentary Friendship Group is more than ever before resolved to strengthen relations with their peers in Cameroon. Their sole intention is to reflect on policies that strengthen and guarantee the development of the peoples they represent. With the House Speaker, the Right Honorable KAWEB, they unveiled plans to share best practices on economic cooperation, administrative knowledge, and new information and communication technologies.
As regards the relationship between our two countries, it's very important to have this time with the head of the National Assembly. So for us, the beginning of our trip in Cameroon, not only in the capital, but also in Douala and also in the north of the country.
The Association of French Elected Representatives of Cameroon origin or nationality, conscious of their role in state construction, also exchanged with the Right Honorable KAWEB. Their unique contribution to job creation and higher growth was expressed.
We have two important preoccupations. The first is how can we be with the local government to create jobs that can enable local government to develop the territories. The other objective is to share with the parliamentarians how we can move forward for double nationality.
At the Senate, the delegation of the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization was granted audience by the Senate President Marcel Njifenji. The emphasis was on the necessity to stamp out malaria-related deaths.
We want, of course, to cooperate with everybody in the world and everybody in Africa, but after that phase of the trials that have confirmed, for instance, in terms of the effectiveness and the security of the vaccine, we thought it would be important now to enlarge it and, of course, to give priority to those countries that have shown more competence and more determination.
The availability and affordability of a malaria vaccine are requirements requested during the exchange.
The lawmakers of the two lawmaking institutions, the Senate and the National Assembly, have applauded government for the efforts made towards meeting the aspirations of the people as outlined in the 2024 budgetary policy. The hope is now that these aspirations will be met and that the mechanisms put in place will be fully implemented. Let's have details of what the closing ceremonies looked like.
The 2023 legislative year in Cameroon has come to a close at both the National Assembly and the Senate, with a total of 8 bills examined and adopted at the level of both houses of Parliament. The closing ceremony at the National Assembly was presided over by the House Speaker, the Right Honorable KAWEB. It was attended by the Prime Minister, Head of Government, Joseph John Gote, and a cross-section of cabinet and other state dignitaries. While closing the plenary at the National Assembly, the Right Honorable KAWEB pointed out the importance of the Finance Bill for the 2024 financial year.
The financial bill has been adopted. We have proposed, Cameroonian Party for National Reconciliation, we have proposed 16 amendments, and 2 of them have been integrated in the bill.
The Right Honorable KAWEB Jibril, in his address, also exhorted government to take into consideration the 2023 Mining Code recently adopted before Parliament. A similar group of personalities, also led by the Prime Minister Joseph Chiongute, attended the closing ceremony of the November session at the Senate. The session was presided over by the Senate President Masenya Chifenji, who saluted the assiduous work done by the entire House, especially the members of government who defended the 2024 state budget.
The state budget took into consideration our 2 regions, including the extreme north, which are in conflict. At least 30 billion francs was allocated for these 3 regions for reconstruction. A lot of resources too were devolved to the decentralized structures. The law on decentralization says at least 15% of the state budget should be assigned to the decentralized structures. If you calculate what all the ministerial departments will have to give to a decentralized structure, is more than the 15%.
The Senate President in his speech again emphasized on the major political change the mining sector brought in the Mining Code presented at the Upper House of Parliament.
It has been a very demanding session. The business of this session was mostly the finance law and also the mining code, also the 2 major issues that we had. Cameroon is looking for other sources of financing apart from petrol. And the mining code is one of those issues that will bring us a lot of revenue in this country. We also realized that our taxation and the custom departments are doing very well in, let me say, increasing the tax base of goods. We also came to know that they are encouraging industries, especially the automobile industries.
Senators, for their part, are all unanimous that the November session dedicated for the adoption of the 2024 financial year ended on a satisfactory note, as the state budget has witnessed a slight increase. Both authorities of the National Assembly and the Senate, in their speeches, also encouraged government to continue with structural reforms that can increase the supply of infrastructure and local processing of products, as well as improving the mobilization of internal resources.
Our guest on today's edition of House Connect is Honorable Edward Adamu Lambe. He is CPDA member of the National Assembly for Donga Mantung East constituency. You're welcome, Honorable.
Thank you very much.
It is a pleasure to have you on House Connect today.
The pleasure is mine too.
It's an opportunity for us to discover who you are at the level of the National Assembly and at the level of your constituency and even at the level of the world, because you are a member of interparliamentary friendship groups. But then let's begin with your work in Parliament. You are a member of the Economic Affairs Committee.
Yeah.
What does your work entail in that committee?
You know, generally the MP's work is that of trying to find out what the government is doing and see how they can watch on that. And the Economic Committee here preoccupies itself in looking at the economic activities of the country and to find out what is it that was not aptly handled or what is it that can be profitable to Cameroon. One of the things we've been working on is that of trying to see whether the bilateral cooperation between Cameroon and European countries that was signed some years back, whether it's profitable to us or not.
The Economic Partnership Agreements?
Yes. And we realized along the line that there is something that needs to be done. Either the terms need to be restructured or we need to call it off. Call it off in the sense that there were some promises, like we thought heavy machines were going to be imported into Cameroon freely, but we realized that some of the products that have been sent to Cameroon tax-free, they don't pay custom duty. Some of the things that we also have. Generally, our markets get flooded with them, and we don't get the heavy machines that we thought could also come in tax-free. which could be profitable to our people, for farming, for roads and other like.
The import substitution policy is also an aspect that your committee has been keen on.
Yes, we are keen on because there are certain basic necessities that we think our population need, and if they are coming from abroad, the government needs to subvent. If not, the prices will keep rising in the market. We're looking at basic goods like rice. At the same time, we're saying that the state needs to encourage Cameroonians to produce rice in large quantity. We don't need to import everything, as the prices will not be able to bear. So the government needs to subvent. Even at level of fuel, we think the government needs to subvent the fuel to a certain extent. Since the stabilization fund is there, they can manipulate it in their own manner so that the common man does not suffer.
You are also a member of the Parliamentary Network for the Sustainable Management of Forest Ecosystems. What's your mission in that network?
The manner in which the trees we have been cut down. Environmental protection is very, very important to us. I think if you look at the forest that we have in Cameroon, maybe we would have had an eco-tourism in Cameroon, because everywhere you go you have forest, but for the northern part of our country. So we need to protect it because it's also useful to us. Let me take the simple example of my local brother back at home. Those who do consume arrow, it's rare to come by arrow now as it used to be in the past. So
why is that?
Most of the timbers, the forests have been felled down, and it's difficult for those items now to survive in open air. So that's why we think that the government needs to continue to verify and really think on who he gives that license to exploit. And he say exploiting according to those norms.
You're a member of the Cameroon-Madagascar Parliamentary Friendship Group, Madagascar having to exchange South-South relations. How do you work with Madagascar in order to promote concerted legislative action?
Coincidentally, Madagascar happens to be a French-speaking country, and part of our country is also French-speaking. And we seem to have a lot of things in common administratively. And we have been looking at the laws. What are the laws that they have in their country vis-a-vis exploitation of, like what I've just talked about, timber? How do they handle when it comes to exploiting things like mines, if they do? So we're trying to look at the way the laws function in their country, and we explain how they function in our country and give them explanation. That way they tell us why it happens in that manner, and if there's something profitable that we can get from there, we take it.
You're on your first mandate, and you definitely had some electoral promises before you came to Parliament.
Yeah.
What have you been doing so far in your constituency?
Electricity, that had been a problem. That was one of my first giant projects. I led the delegation to meet JPG Redeft in Bamenda, and we explained that electricity had never been in Ngwa, and they promised to do something. Electricity was taken right down to close to the subdivisional headquarters, as in Sabongari. We're looking forward to bringing it up to Ngwa. I've had to work on the educational part. I was a teacher before now, and each year, at the beginning of each year, I go to schools and share books, didactic material, school bags to students, and sometimes even give little help to PTA teachers in schools that are in dire need of that. I'm proud to this time there was an identification center that was in my subdivision, but it was taken away because we are at the borders. We fought hard, I fought at my level for it to be reinstated. I can find it in Samgari, and I had to struggle to even buy a generator to make sure that center goes on. That's the second thing. I would say the third thing is that for all the development communities of all the villages in one subdivision, they've received financial help from me that I give. Even the churches I have, even the mosque, I have helped them to see if they can build up the structures. The next one is that of roads. I happen to have talked about roads. At the moment, there is a stretch of road between Mbem and Sigom that is under construction. That's thanks to my lobby that we had it. There's still one that's been going on between Jato and Sigom, Jato and King. There is also the route that needs to be rehabilitated between Sop, Ngwa, and Yang to the borders.
Electricity, education,
yes.
social assistance.
Yes.
You're halfway into your mandate.
Yes.
What next is in your bag to unveil for your people?
Roads and schools. The schools are there, but there are no teachers. So I have to work hard for more teachers to be sent to my constituency. When I say roads, it's because we have many more roads. One of the things I should point out is that Dangwa subdivision is one of the oldest subdivisions in the whole republic and has 42 villages. So what I'm saying that we need roads so that the entire area should be able
interconnected.
Exactly. There is a road I'm looking forward to between Mayobinka and Luz Kwaja. If there is no security, we can't talk of a nation, we can't talk of a village, we can't talk of even a subdivision. So my area happens to be at the borders, and what transpired at the borders is sometimes very, very alarming. That's why I keep talking about security.
You are a lawmaker who represents the people of Dongamantung East.
Yes.
But you're also a lawmaker who represents all the people of Cameroon. So to wrap up this interview, what would you say to the people who are listening to you?
What I would tell our people generally is we need to be law-abiding. We need to have a lot of love for our country. I will tell all Cameroonians that the challenges we face here, they are all over. They are not only in Cameroon. But I think how we handle the challenges is what is very important to us. We should love our country. Those of you who have traveled out of the country will see that we have everything in Cameroon. We just need to put ourselves in order and we'll live a happy life in Cameroon. And with the vision the head of state is having, I think we can move ahead further.
Thank you very much, Honorable Edward Damu Lambe, for being our guest. More grease to your elbows. House Connect gives you a chance to know who your parliamentarian is. On our self-portrait today, we shall be discovering a member of parliament who's had 2 mandates at the level of the National Assembly and is currently a member of the Senate, working at the level of the Finance and Budget Committee. He is Honorable Enwe Francis Abi.
I am Honorable Senator Enwe Francis Abi, former Member of Parliament of the Cameroon National Assembly and currently the Vice President of the Finance Committee of the Senate. And I'm also privileged to be the Vice President of the Northwest Senators. And I'm also a member of the Educational Committee of the Senate. I got married at the age of 24 years. And my wife was 18. And we are happily married till today. We are blessed with 5 kids. Born in January 1971 in a village called Bifang in Widikum subdivision in the Northwest region. My primary school studies at the Catholic Primary School in Mankon. That's where I went through, right in the village. And thereafter, I had to go to the secondary school and high school in Batibo and Bengui precisely. Thereafter, I had to continue with the missionary work when I left my advanced level. Before going into the missionary work, I was working back in my village, you know, where I had to even do local selling of palm wine, which I would transport about 5 kilometers to my village. I dug toilets for people just to make money. I dug stones and sold to people who were constructing. I did clearing of people's farms to make money. And in fact, I got myself involved, not just sitting and waiting for an opportunity from government. And that's where I made my money. And during that period, I started missionary work with the New Apostolic Church, where I was actually trained and prepared and then finally ordained as a priest. Thereafter, I proceeded to South Africa for greener pastures and to further my studies. And while in South Africa, I worked with a couple of organizations. And a couple of years later, while continuing my studies, I created my own company in South Africa. I did business management with the Southern African Business Management Training College. and the Institute of Business Management in South Africa. I did a lot of work with the governments of South Africa, Namibia, Swaziland, Botswana, and in fact I was all over those countries working with government structures and municipalities, improving their capacities. And I worked a lot on fraud prevention and corruption activities, which I was privileged to be invited to Cameroon to lecture the anti-corruption in Cameroon, which I did and happily rendered my services to this our structure. And while in South Africa, I employed even some Cameroonians working in my company. In 2007, before coming to Cameroon, though I was involved in the politics in South Africa, in the Cameroonian community, where I was the president of the Cameroon Association in Western Cape, South Africa, a very big association that we actually stabilized ourselves as Cameroonians. And then my visit to Cameroon in April 2007, when elections were in July, I met the political authorities of my area to find out from them, what can we do to send away the opposition party? I gave them a condition that if they accept my candidature as a substantive candidate, then I will manage the elections, which we did, and I won. Since 2007, I became a member of the National Assembly, and it was not easy to do my job here and to manage my company in South Africa. And that's where I was making more money than Cameroon. But God being what He is, decided to really make me accept the conditions here. I did a lot for my constituency, Momo West, where people can still testify my 12 years as a member of the National Assembly. A few years later, I'm now a senator. I'm humbled to be a senator, to continue serving the Cameroonian people. The people expect a lot, more than what I was doing at the National Assembly, which we are ready to, but our hands are tied at some extent with the conflict that we have in the region, Northwest and Southwest. We know the setbacks Cameroon has, and all now is to put strategies in place to see how we help the government in place, we help whoever is there to lead us and lead us well by improving what Cameroonians expect and make sure the development that Cameroonians want, we have to deliver.
Members of Parliament have been preoccupied about the proliferation of light arms and small weapons that threaten security in some parts of the country. But away from that, they've also been concerned about the rising rates of deaths that have to do with the malaria parasite.
Hundreds of millions the world over are grounded by the malaria parasite, and the prevalence in Cameroon surpasses 30%. The tides must be turned through adequate legislation and financing of the health sector.
I can plead on the government to look the way forward to help our people. The children are dying of malaria, the population are dying of malaria. So if they can give us free treatment of malaria to children, it will reduce the way people are dying.
If their money or what is budgeted for them is not enough, they will not be able to carry out their mission. And also a vaccine that is going to come for malaria. But first, we are saying that there should be widespread information about this vaccine.
The free of charge treatment of children and the subsidized scheme integrated in the universal health coverage is a strong recommendation made.
It is on that networking note that we wrap up this edition of House Connect, your insight into parliamentary activities, which give you details of what happened at the level of the Senate and the National Assembly for the last 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, we'll be back to give you a review of the intense debates that characterize the adoption of the 2024 state budget. Till then, stay tuned to our programs on the CRT.